We are now live. Welcome everyone. It is the KBMOD Build Guide podcast, and we have a special guest with us, Jacob from EVGA, as well as Bob Postal, who knows a lot more about computers than I do, which is why he's here. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good.
So Hex wasn't able to make it. He had a little bit of an emergency, so it'll be the three of us tonight.
Yeah, so you just get his little cartoon in the corner. Unfortunately, he's not here. But we have special guest, Jacob from EVGA. You want to go into a little bit about what you do over there and all that fun
Sure.
stuff?
So my official title is product manager at EVGA, and you know, that's kind of encompasses a lot of different product related things, such as working on new products, existing products, also working with our community and reaching out to them and seeing what kind of new features they would like to have, and trying to incorporate those into our products as well, and working with our engineering team in Taiwan. So things of that nature.
You get to play with a lot of fun toys, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Lots of things we all drool over.
Yeah.
I was going
big part. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, I was going through your Twitter feed trying to find a higher resolution pic of that Twitter handle you had, just to see if like maybe it was on there, and then I'm just scrolling through like video card after video card, like.
Oh, the cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked out fine, but
Yeah. All right.
I just
I don't
ended
know
up
if there's a higher
kind of
resolution
creeping
version or not.
your stuff and just went, dang, I want to play with all those toys.
Yeah, there's a lot of video cards in that, I'm sure.
Does it ever get tiring to play with new toys?
I would say that it does. No, I don't think it ever gets tiring. It's there's a lot to do, definitely, you know, but but I don't think it gets tiring. It keeps things interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always fun. What's the highest resolution display that you've, or maybe not highest resolution, but like the most you've pushed a computer with your guys' cards in it?
Well, right now in front of me is two 4K displays, so
Okay.
that's probably it.
Not bad.
Yeah. And I don't have any scaling turned on, so everything is teeny tiny, but
Super thin.
gives you a lot of desktop real estate. So
Has anyone tried to do like 4K displays for like a racing game or something like that?
yeah, I've seen it at
Fascinating.
like the different shows,
What's
like
the,
a 4K surround setup.
what's the FPS they're getting on that kind of stuff with those games?
I think it really depends on the game. I can tell you that I saw it with WoW, and it was playable, but then again, it's WoW, so you know. But yeah, I should try that sometime, I guess. I think we have 4K displays around here somewhere. So
I know I have a 980 super clocked, which I can see right now. I actually hit up.
You don't want to take it out?
No, I don't. No, it's never leaving. But I actually was looking for a replacement window for my case because I didn't get one with a window, not thinking I wanted one, and then eventually I wanted one because I have a 980 and I just want to look at it from time to time. So now I can just like look down and be like, yep, it's still there. But,
Actually, Mark is super proud of that 980. We hear about it almost every single day.
yeah,
that's why a lot of the cards that we sell have lights and on them, right?
Yeah.
So just for looking.
And then there's the constant. Mark's constantly struggling with buying a second one and whether he should do it or not. Almost every day, right?
yeah. I have
What resolution?
Well, right now I'm pushing just one 1080p screen, 144 hertz, so it's doing just fine there. But I have a 4K TV in the living room, and every once in a while I bring it out there and I play games on it, and it does pretty good. I was playing Shadow of Mordor, not on Ultra, I think it on very high, and it was doing just fine there. So, but
Yeah, that second one would help a lot for 4K. 1080p, it depends on the game and the anti-aliasing setting. You may see some benefit there. Certainly benchmarks, you'll see a big benefit. But the 4K, you'll see a pretty tremendous improvement in performance when you go SLI.
yeah, I think that The Witcher 3 is the first game that's really made me go, I might have to turn a setting down to get
Yeah.
the frames I want versus the look I want. So,
Well, I think part of it too is your desire to be prepared for the Oculus, the actual
Oh, yeah.
launch, right? So Mark and I are both playing with DK2s right now. Steve let me borrow
Cool.
his. And I mean, I'm just running on. I have a 970, but you know that screen door effect you get with 1080p.
Yeah.
Kind of rough times. I mean, it's going to have to be significantly higher resolution in order to take that away.
Yeah, not to go off on a tangent there, but I think I was reading somewhere where someone said like 8K is what we really need before, like, we really are going to notice. Because the 1080p screens, basically, you take it and you chop it in half. So you have one screen for each eye. And that's not enough resolution. Because you can see the pixels sometimes when you're really looking, and text is hard to read, so...
Especially with something like Oculus, because the
Yeah.
the displays are so close to your eyes that you
And-
really need a high resolution.
And you're not using the entire display, too. You're using, like, a round portion of it, so the corners don't get used. So it's tough. But I'm curious to see what they actually release for consumer versions. If they make a 4K version, I'll probably buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's immersive enough as it is that I'm probably going to buy one anyway. I mean,
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I would like to see a 4K one, but I tried the most recent dev kit at GDC, GTC. No, GDC. I get this. GDC. It was. I think it was the Crescent Bay one. I think that's the latest one. And it was really impressive. Yeah, definitely. There was maybe a minor screen door effect, but it was much improved from the very first generation that I had tried previous to that.
Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. The Oculus is something that'll make me, especially for first-person shooters that are single-player, it's definitely going to make it a lot more immersive for me, because I have trouble where I mean, I grew up with Counter-Strike, so I'm just like round after round, just want to get in there and shoot stuff. Sometimes single-player, unless it really hooks me, I can't get sucked into it, and then I get kind of bored, and then I turn it off and never play it again. And I threw the Oculus on, and I was playing Alien Isolation, which the first time I played that on just my normal monitor, I got bored. I was like, there's nothing happening, whatever. I threw that thing on there, and all of a sudden I'm just looking at walls. I'm like leaning my head, and I'm like, oh, that's hanging there, but I can move my head and like spin around it. So it's going to be a game changer, but it's definitely going to take a lot of hardware to push it. So,
Yeah, the first time that I tried it, I played Doom 3. It was like one of the first dev kit, I think it was. And then after that, I tried a lot of the tech demos, like the roller coaster demo, and I can't think of. I don't think I've played any other actual games on it other than that one. But yeah, it is a game changer for sure.
yeah.
the two best, in my opinion, if you're gonna get your hands on one and can try it out for a little while, Project Cars and Elite Dangerous are the two to definitely try out.
Yeah, and those are the two that I play the most on it. So
Yeah, that's, I don't know, it's a cool and exciting time. I mean, I think that's going to be driving a lot of what we're seeing in the GPU world for a while as well.
Yep.
So
I'm kind of interested to see how it could work in other game genres, though. Like, yeah, racing I could see, first-person shooter definitely. But how about like third-person games and like fighting games? You know, how would it work with that? I'm kind of interested to see. You know,
well, so one of the things that I was using it for was like for a virtual desktop. Or not virtual. No, it was virtual desktop. I think that's actually the name of the app. I'd have to look. But I was basically in this home theater with like a 12-foot screen in front of me. So the screen was static, and I mean, I could move my head around and I'd be looking around in the room, but the screen was just gigantic. So maybe something like that it would lend itself to.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to take stuff that we already have and just make it better and different at the same time. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to make it something we haven't seen before, or you haven't even like thought up yet. So I think that's the most exciting part about that. But I think we could probably go off on a tangent about VR stuff forever. And this go ahead, I'll let you do.
No, I was just saying, I was thinking, that's a good topic for talking about like GPU horsepower and what we're going to do with it. You know? But yeah, we should probably. Do you want to go ahead and dive into the builds really quickly, and then we can field questions?
Yeah. So for those of you, this might be your first time joining us, or even if you're here every week or every month. We've been doing monthly build guides. We have 4 build guides. We have 500, 800, 1300, and 1800. And so the 500, which I'll start off with, is kind of, it's basically your budget PC. You don't have a lot of money, so you're really looking bang for buck here. So what we try to do with these as well is we always try to have like some kind of upgrade path, and usually we do a really good job at that. So
Hold on. One more point though. So one more point is that these are vendor agnostic, and they might not necessarily reflect the prices by the time you go to check them.
that's true.
This is more of a lot of these you can see as basically a placeholder. Like this $500 build, you may not be able to get this motherboard for this particular price when you're going to look, going to shop. Make sure that you do use PC Part Picker to sort all this stuff. But this is just kind of, it's a representative build of what you could possibly do at $500, $800, $1,300, $1,800.
Yeah, for sure. And if you have $550, you may want to look into other options as well. You might want to upgrade one thing, or maybe your intentions need you to have a better GPU or more RAM. So definitely do your research. And you can always hit all of us up on Twitter, KBMOD. You can post in the forums. We're here to help you guys. I know before I joined KBMOD, I built my first computer, and I really wish I would have asked these guys, because I ended up buying a last generation video card because it was on Adobe's recommended site, and that's the one I could afford, and I definitely could have bought the current gen one and been just fine. So we are a resource, and we are more than happy to help you guys out. So I will dive into the $500 build though. We're going to start off with if I can change scenes real quick. We have an Intel Core i3, the 4150 3.5 gigahertz dual core processor. It's an i3, so I wouldn't really expect to be doing a lot of streaming and whatnot with this, but it's definitely a good start, and you can upgrade the socket later on if you want to upgrade. The motherboard, MSI Z97 PC Mate ATX. MSI, they make solid motherboards. I haven't had any issues when I've used them in the past. G-Skill Aries series, 8 gigabytes of RAM. Nothing real special here. We'll give you some room to upgrade down in the future if you want to add more stuff. We have the tried and true Barracuda 1 terabyte drive. You'll see that a lot in our builds. They're cheap. It's a decent amount of storage. And for the GPU, which is kind of what we always look for here, especially because these are geared more towards gaming, we have the Power Cooler Radeon R9 2800 3 gigabyte Turbo Duo video card. That's a lot of verbiage there. I know Bob said he was able to upgrade this from last month, I believe. What did we have in there last month? Do you remember?
No, it was a vendor swap actually. This one just happens to be on sale. I mean, I still would love to stick a 960 in there, but it's still cost prohibitive at the moment.
Yeah.
So for $149, the R9 280 is a pretty good card.
Yeah, that's true. And the case, we have a thermal take mid-tower case. Nothing. I personally haven't used it, so I don't know anything about that. And before we kind of comment on this one, we'll just wrap it up. EVGA 500 watt power supply. Is this the? I'm gonna click on this. Is this the one I think it is that we were looking at earlier?
I don't know. This one has actually been in our build several times because it's
that's a pretty popular model.
Yeah.
So, but that's
tried and true, and usually on a very good sale too. So high value part.
So this is, well, okay, so it's not the fully modular one that we were looking at earlier today, but I think we might see that later on. But we're also on the $500 build, so you can't really expect fully modular PSUs at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's plenty capable for most AAA titles as is. I mean, I actually have, we'll talk about this little guy later, but there's actually an i3 4160 in here right now. And it's pretty capable. It does a good job, especially at $110 when you're comparing it to, well, it's not a direct comparison to something like an i5 4690, but um, it's a good chip for that price, and it'll keep up in most games. It'll keep feeding that GPU.
Yeah.
So.
And I think this machine will do. If you're just buying this to play games, I mean, you're not going to be running stuff on Ultra or anything like that if it's coming out now. But I mean, you go back like 2 years and you'll probably not have that many issues. So you'll have to push it to see for yourself what is acceptable to you. Because some people, 30 FPS for them is fine as long as it's consistent. Some people prefer 60.
I think this will be well over 30 in a bunch of different cases.
Yeah.
I don't have benchmarks readily available for you, but I have a 7970 that is kind of an approximate for the R9 280, and I think I was pulling about 74 frames a second in Shadow of Mordor with everything turned up all the way. And GTA 5, I think I was holding steady right around 60.
Oh, there you go. Then
basically high settings, not very high.
Maybe I'm just hesitant to think that $500 can get you that good of a PC, but
yeah,
it's pretty amazing what we can do with $500 nowadays. So,
yep. So that one's a good one. Let's go ahead and move on to the $800 build. Do you want me to do that one?
Yeah, go for that.
All right. Get that up. Okay, so the $800 build, we are going with the i5 4690K because we like to overclock or we have the possibility to. I mean, really, it's free megahertz. This time we didn't squeeze in another like third-party cooler just because I was using basically the entire budget. It's at $797.99, so there wasn't a whole lot of room to work with. But we've got an Asus E97E ATX board. If I'm not mistaken, I'm going to click the link here. That one is, yes, it does have SLI support, and that's why I picked it. It's on a sale right now. We stuck with the same G.Skill Aries RAM because that's tried and true, good price for that. The same Seagate 1TB Barracuda drive. And then there is a really good deal right now on the GTX 970. This one is an EVGA GTX 970 4 gig SSC ACX 2.0 video card. That is $309.30 after a promo code and a rebate from Newegg.
Does it still include the games too?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it should.
I'm running out of reasons not to buy one of those.
Kinda. Yeah, I'm gonna double check here, but I believe you should still be getting the games with that.
Yeah, it does come with the games.
Yep. So Witcher 3 and Batman Arkham Knight, there's essentially $120 worth of games bundled with that. This time we step up a little bit in the case. That is an NZXT Source 210. Again, tried and true. Got some room for your build in there for $35. And then the EVGA 500 watt power supply. Again, grand total $797.99. I think it's a pretty significant bump for $300, to be honest with you. That's a 970.
Yeah.
And then
I think if you're in that $500 price point, I would try to make the stretch for something like this if you, you know, if you're going to be using it for gaming.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, if you can, there are ways of coming up with that extra $300. Mow a couple yards or something.
Yep. A few things that are kind of missing from these two, also that you'll see in the other builds. No CPU cooler, so you can you could probably do a mild overclock, but I wouldn't push it too much. But you'll see the coolers come up in our other builds, and no solid state drive. But both of those, you could buy this PC today and then upgrade that down the road as well. So, this one is definitely a better core to start off with, and then upgrade. The 500 is definitely, if you don't have the money, it's still a great PC. But if you can squeeze the extra $300 to upgrade to this, it's the amount of PC you get is just, I mean, the 970 by itself is just a phenomenal card. I don't think there's any other bang for buck out there close to it. So
no, and especially when you throw those games in as well. Let's assume you're getting into PC gaming for the first time and you don't have a giant library of games. That's two very good AAA titles right off the bat. So
and brand new games.
Yeah.
And The Witcher 3 definitely looks really, really nice. It'll push that 970s.
Yeah. I mean, as we
Batman should too.
Yeah.
As we talk about coolers too, I mean, there's some really good air coolers in the $20 to $45 range as well, and that's a quick, easy upgrade if you're really worried about your temps. I mean, the Intel stock cooler can handle some of an overclock, maybe a couple hundred megahertz, and literally it's as hard as changing a number from 35 to 39, and you get a little, right with the Intel stock cooler, and you're probably fine.
Yeah.
So
just make sure you have enough room if you upgrade your cooler.
Clearance issues.
Yeah, because I was building a machine for work today, and I threw on the Hyper 212, and it was sticking out just barely past the edge of the case, and I'm going, I don't know if this is gonna fit. And then I put the window or the side panel on. It had a window that stuck out a little bit, so it fit, but.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything small enough for the Hadron. I don't have anything short enough for that. So I'm stuck with the Intel. Cool.
Yeah, so that's just another thing you might want to check, is make sure you have enough room, because otherwise you might get it and then you could always just run your PC without a side panel on it.
Side panel?
Yeah, that's true.
Plenty of people do that.
Yeah. And just stick a giant fan next to it, and then it'll get extra cooling. So.
Do an open build.
Another thing too I want to mention before we jump into the other one is how low the power demand is from these machines. This one, according to PC Power Picker, estimates 332 watts. That's insane for how much power we're getting nowadays. It's just
a lot of that. Yeah, there's Intel keeps getting more and more power efficient on the CPUs, but the biggest thing there is the graphics card, especially with Maxwell. It's such a power efficient GPU. I mean, it really just barely sips power even at full performance.
Was that, I mean, I don't want to put you in an awkward position or anything, but was that surprising to you guys when you first got your samples?
Or
did you
I think so. I think so, because it's such a significant difference in power consumption, and not only that, it's a lot faster. So, the fact that they're able to squeeze out that much more performance and lower the power by that much, I think it's pretty impressive engineering feat from NVIDIA.
Yeah, because that gave you guys a ton of headroom on your ACX coolers, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's like if you look at something like the 980, because it does use such low power consumption at the stock performance settings, that we're able to come out with versions like classified, and those that they're designed for a different audience, and those ones have more power phases and are designed to be overclocked, so it gives you a lot of headroom there with those versions.
All right, let's jump into the next one. So we're jumping from 800 to 1300. Let me get this all queued up. All right, here we go. So this one, we had a little bit more headroom. We built these guides today, and so we weren't able to find a place for an extra $50, but I'm sure you will find a way to justify spending that on your own.
I think this changed on me, because I think I was closer than that.
Oh,
but
okay.
That's good news.
I'm showing 1253, so
yeah,
that's a good thing. So we're starting off 4790K. I have that CPU in my machine right now. It's a great CPU. If you're not going to jump up to why am I drawing a blank? What's the newest one called?
What's that?
X99.
Yeah. And yet I'm on a hardware podcast. But 4790K is still a fantastic CPU. Having great results with it here. For some reason, my motherboard doesn't want to overclock it, even though it says it's overclocked. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but Bob and I are very confused about that. So
we're gonna fix that.
Yeah.
Wait, what did you say?
My machine does not want to overclock past. It'll say it's overclocked in the BIOS, and everything will be saved, and then I boot it into Windows, and when I go to test it, it'll say it's just at 4.0.
It's almost like he's got a separate overclock rule that's
I don't know what the deal is, so I need to check.
Could be related to like the It could be related to like the Windows power management settings also.
Yeah.
I know some of those can affect overclocking.
So, but so actually this isn't too far off of my build. So we got the 4790K. We also have the Thermaltake Water 3.0 Extreme, which I also have in my machine. I hear that thing. I'm pretty sure my machine is overclocked. It just takes something to drive it, because I've been hearing that thing turn on a lot more than it has in the past. Although that could just be Witcher 3.
Witcher 3.
Yeah.
But this water cooler, even though it's doing a fantastic job, it's still pretty quiet over the air solutions I've had in the past. With the motherboard, we have a gigabit motherboard. Don't know the specifics on that. You guys can dive into that if you want. Let's see if there's anything that's stuck out to you. This, I mean, you can do. Is it two-way SLA on this?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it should be two-way.
Yeah, I don't think it's three-way, but I mean, for 110 bucks, gigabit has always been good for me. So.
Yeah, Z97 supports two-way SLI because the number of it doesn't have enough PCIe lanes from the CPU. By default, it supports two-way SLI.
And this is all the notes that we're supposed to build before we go on the podcast, but we ran out of time to make them. Corsair Vengeance Pro 16 gigabyte memory. I've never used this myself, but if Bob throws it in here, it's got to be good.
I've used Corsair in a few builds, yeah.
And then, so one of the big jumps from the other builds to this one is we have a solid state drive. We have the Samsung 850 EVO, 250 gigabyte hard drive. I actually installed one of those in that machine I was building today, along with a 3 terabyte Barracuda drive, which
probably the same one in that build.
I think I had a 2 terabyte drive in the one I built today. But I mean, for the price, $100, less than $100 for both of those, that's pretty amazing. It's a great day to be alive.
This might sound like it's really snobbish, but I actually can't use a PC without a solid state drive. No, I have no patience for it.
I can't either.
If you guys once
and the noise.
Yeah.
That too. If you guys don't have a solid state drive in your machine, they're cheap enough now. Just go buy one. Even if you just put your OS on it, just go buy it.
It's by far the most noticeable difference. I mean, it literally breathes new life into old PCs. Yeah. Like a bunch of years ago, I think when the Intel 520 series was introduced, Intel employees were given the option of a new laptop or to keep their existing laptop and replace their drive with an SSD. And a huge number of their employees chose the SSD simply because it'd be quicker, faster for them and make the most difference. So. Like I said, I can't use a purely mechanical drive anymore. I can't.
No. It's just that's if you've used one for long enough, that's torture. I don't know how people do it nowadays, but
I think they don't know. They don't know any different. They haven't tried an SSD. They haven't tried something like Intel Rapid Start. Like adding an SSD after the fact, but.
My favorite thing is when I have all that stuff configured. I actually have that not up because I think there's different levels on my motherboard as far as the rapid start. When I have it on the fastest and I'm having issues with my machine, I can't hit delete fast enough to get into BIOS. So I actually have it at a notch down because every once in a while I need to get into that and I can't, and I don't want to take my computer apart to reset the BIOS manually.
Yeah, that's a common issue, especially with UEFI. PCs boot so fast now, you can barely get into BIOS to change your boot device or anything like that.
So go buy one. The Samsung Evo series, as much as I love my Intel SSDs, because I'm very biased and my brother-in-law works there and has given me some, they are a fantastic drive. Just don't tell my brother I said that.
Yeah, I mean, well, they had some issues. They had some issues with a couple of their different products that had been later solved with firmware updates. So that's something to keep in mind too. From a longevity perspective, though, I've had good success with the Evo series. I prefer the Pro series where I can. So
yeah. And video card, same. This is the same one as before. $310. I mean, Good grief. Along with 2 games, that's just hard to beat. Then the case, we have an NZXT S340. I haven't. Have you used one of these, Bob?
Yeah, yeah, I built one for somebody else, and I love that case. It's quite nice. I don't use optical drives anymore. I have no need for 5 1/4 bays. So this is one of the cases that have removed it entirely in favor of space elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I think it's sleek and simple to build in. So at $65, it's a really good deal.
That is for a good case. 65 isn't that bad too.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that I've noticed is maybe some of the finish on the outside, like it could scratch easily. So just be careful with it. But otherwise, it's compact, it's light, sturdy construction overall. So it's a good option if you're looking to build.
And PC Power Picker does not have a high-res image, so I can't show you it. Then we'll have to bug him about that. Say, hey, we're using this on our podcast. We need high-resolution pictures. And then power supply. I don't believe I had the 750-watt version of this, but I've used the step down from this. The EVGA Supernova NEX power supply, fully modular. I put in I believe 550-watt version of this in a machine today. I really like these power supplies. Fully modular, if you can afford it. It's just really nice because then you don't have extra cables. And this
I like those power supplies too.
Yeah, actually, so funny enough, I was telling Jacob before we even started, this legitimately was not pandering. This was just so happened that a bunch of these were on sale, and this has a great feature set for a power supply for $78 on sale.
Yeah, especially so we're running a lot of promotions this month and next month on all of our power supplies from top to bottom. So if you're looking for a power supply, now's a good time to check out some of the EVGA ones, since there's a lot of good deals out there right now.
Yeah, when you're building for the first time, or even like your 500th time, fully modular is like life-changing, to be honest with you. No more cable spaghetti in the bottom.
Yep.
Not only that, once you do all your wiring, and like if you for whatever reason you need to replace the power supply, you could leave all your wiring there. You don't have to redo all your wiring again. So
that is an excellent point that I never thought about.
I haven't been in that situation actually, so that's a great point.
So that wraps up this build, 1300. Right now it's coming in for me at $1,253, which isn't a bad thing. And then just a handy feature that PC Power Picker has, 361 watts of power is the estimated usage. So 750, that gives you a lot of room to grow. You can easily do SLI 970s with this and not even have to worry about it. So.
All right, let's do the 1800.
Let's jump into it.
All right, so for the $1,800 build, we are actually not a lot of changes from last month, to be honest with you. This again is an X99 build. So we've got the i7 5820K. That is currently $362 at SuperBiz. If you live close to a Micro Center, you might be able to catch one of these on sale, along with some kind of a motherboard combo deal. We can't use that, unfortunately, when we're doing these pricing exercises because they're kind of few and far between. Again, we stick with the Thermaltake Water 3.0 Extreme. It's a good deal at $94. This Gigabyte GA X99 UD3 board is very similar to the UD4 board that I personally use. A couple friends have used the UD3 board with good success, so that's a good deal at $172. We've got some Corsair Vengeance. This is the low profile, if I'm not mistaken. This is, remember, it's a quad channel board. So we've got 4x4 gig at $180. Got a Samsung 850 Evo Series 250 gig. We also have a Western Digital Black Series 2 terabyte. A lot of people like the Black Series for its performance over some of the Seagate drives that you might find. Again, that's all vendor OEM preference kind of thing. I might substitute a Seagate here just from price to storage ratio. Like I might use that 3 terabyte from the previous build. The GPU in this one, actually, we go to the 980. As always, we suggest the single fastest video card that you can afford at the time. I don't really generally recommend somebody jumping straight into SLI or Crossfire, just based off of whether a game has capabilities for that. So we like to say go with the fastest single card. This one clocks in at 521. Again, if you want to justify things like Mark justifies things, it's actually $400. You just happen to get, Witcher 3 and Arkham Knight. And then there is the NZXT H440 white. Kind of have a crush on this case. You guys already know that. It's $100. I think it's a good deal. Has a lot of space. It can be a very clean build. And then again, Jacob with the power supply on sale. The EVGA 850 gold certified, fully modular, at $102 from Newegg right now on sale with mail-in rebate. So that clocks in for a total of $1,756.03.
Not bad at all.
No, that's actually pretty much a monster in my opinion.
So just out of curiosity, I'm going to edit this part list, and then I'm going to add another one of these for SLI. Oh. We're still under 600 watts with two 980s. That's just insanity. How much is it for 3? I just want to see.
Yeah.
It's 756, so you're just barely pushing over that 750 limit, so...
Still good.
850. You could do triple SLI with that power supply. That's just dumb. Compared to what you had to buy before to do that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, definitely.
And keep in mind too that the less power that it's using, the less heat that it's producing. So, summertime's coming up. You don't want to have a really, really hot machine when it's over 100 degrees outside and your AC is having to run, and you want to keep your door shut because you don't want your mom beating on your door to disturb you or something. Not that all of us are still living with our mothers, but I know for us, we have 2 machines in a tiny room, and I have lights for all my live streaming stuff. The more power efficient my machine can be, the better for me, because that's less heat.
Yeah, well, and less cost too.
And then less monthly cost.
Your electricity bill. And that's another reason to be buying the gold and platinum rated power supplies as well. They can save you money in the long run.
Yeah, that's something I never even remember to consider. But if you have your machine on all the time, especially if you're gaming, that can make a huge difference.
Yep.
Use that to justify a new GPU.
Yeah, so use the savings from the electricity to put that towards new GPUs.
Exactly. So that kind of wraps up our builds, but just like we had last month, we invited our guest to do his own build. And do we want to dive into that, or is there anything else we wanted to cover on ours?
Let's go ahead into that one.
All right.
I gotta admit, I love this one. I wish I could build it in real life.
Right, so before we toss this over to you, what are the rules, Bob, that you give him for this build?
Okay, so same rules apply to him as us, except he has an extra $1,000. So it's a $2,800 build, and I believe the price slightly changed on him from the time he had sent it to me to when we're talking about it. So just keep that in mind. He also went above and beyond in this one, and I'm sure he'll dive into that in a moment. We generally don't include monitor or OS, but he did. So so bonus points for that. So
all right, go for it.
Well, there was a few different ways that I could have gone with this. Originally, I was parting it out as a very high-end X99 system with SLI, but I wanted to try something different. So instead what I went for is this absolute smallest PC that I could really build, and still extremely high performance. So I did an ITX build. So the first thing is the CPU is 4790K CPU. Of course, that's the obvious choice there. Unlocked, great overclocking. For the CPU cooler, and actually with the ITX, EVGA actually has a lot of parts that can also kind of tie in here. So we actually do sell a mini ITX CPU cooler that's kind of designed for the chassis that was chosen for this build. Of course, the motherboard is a EVGA, the Z97 mini ITX board. We have 2 versions of this board. We have one with Wi-Fi and then one with Creative Core 3D. Audio, I went with the Wi-Fi one. I think that's probably maybe a bit more useful for most people, but we do have both options there. For the memory, there's I went with G.Skill here, but Kingston's great, of course. We also have, believe it or not, EVGA memory, but it is exclusive to Micro Center, so I kind of left it open here with the G.Skill one. And for the storage drives, two Samsung 850 EVOs for RAID 0. Intel's great also. I wanted to put a 750 PCIe in here, but there's just no more room, with a mini ITX motherboard. And then of course the video card is the Titan X, because why not? We have the budget here.
I want one of those so bad.
So yeah, just imagine, guys, Titan X and 8 cores overclocked in something a footprint of this big.
Yeah.
That's all the bigger is. So
yeah.
I mean, for scale, like bottle of Coke. Like,
see, that would grow great in my living rooms for my 4K TV.
Just insane.
And for the case, it's the EVGA Hadron Mini ITX case. It actually comes with a power supply already, so that's why there's no power supply on this build. And like you mentioned, I did actually add Windows 8.1, but if you have it already, or if you want to use the Windows 10 preview, then you get that for free today. And I threw a monitor in there. I'm using this is an Acer G-Sync monitor, 1440p, 144 hertz, really nice monitor, and of course supports G-Sync, so very low latency, no stuttering, and so came out to 2810 it looks like now, but I think it was under 2800 before. 406 watts is what it's, so we still have about 100 watts there.
Sorry I stole your thunder there showing off the case. It's my precious.
No, that's good.
The case.
Yeah.
So actually, Jacob was kind enough to send that to me to review. So that'll be a review on KBMOD formally in the next couple of days here. So keep an eye out for that. I think.
Yeah, the PSU is 80 plus gold.
Yeah.
In the Hadron.
That's pretty good too. I mean, at least when I haven't bought a case that came with a power supply in a long time, but before, and I was on a budget too, so all the ones that came with the cases I was looking at were all crappy. But if you can get one that's a good quality case.
Well, the reason being for this one, I mean, I'll let Jacob talk about it too. It's a slim power supply. It's just it's right here in the bottom. It's
basically a 1U power supply, so it's very small, but it's quality. It's 80 plus gold rated, so it can run Titan X no problem.
This has actual pictures that are
crazy
decent.
And a lot of people think that the fan is actually, because the fan is so small, I think it's like maybe 40 or 60 millimeter, that it's a lot of people think it's really loud, but actually it's not loud at all. In fact, on the builds that I have, that's usually the CPU fan is louder than the power supply fan in most cases. So yeah, it's not very loud.
It looks like I'm actually pretty excited to see what the review is for that, because that could go in my living room. And maybe I'll upgrade to the 980 Ti's whenever those come out, and then I'll put the 980 in my living room. So I mean, they might get the job done.
Yeah, I have one in my living room too. So, but I only have a 780 Ti in mine, and I don't have a 4K TV yet. So, 780 Ti is good enough for most gaming on it at 1080. Yeah.
I'm pretty good about not spending money with everything except computer parts. Computer parts, for whatever reason, I just go, I need this, and it's a really bad habit.
I think probably most of us are that way also.
I'm also the worst influence in the entire world. So I'm like, yeah, sure, dude. Yeah, you need it.
Bob's like, oh yeah. Although you were trying to sell me to get the 970, like, you don't need the 980. I'm like, but the CUDA cores. And you're like,
yeah,
you don't need it. Well, I'm doing it anyways. So, but no, that's it. For a small build like that, and all the power that you can fit in that, that's pretty incredible. So,
Yeah, I mean the whole mini ITX platform actually I find very interesting, and that's how I kind of started this whole thing. I started seeking out other mini ITX ecosystem parts that I could bring up because I just think it's cool that you can do so much with such a small footprint now that you don't need the full, full towers or extended ATX boards, anything like that to get some significant power.
hmm
So,
Yeah, you really don't. I mean, yeah, there's everybody wants to have SLI and stuff, but
right.
for 1080p, 1440p gaming, even some 4K if you're like on a Titan X, you could build a really small PC that is close to the size of a PS4, certainly Xbox One, but offer much more performance in that
Yeah.
very small footprint.
yeah, you won't be doing any upscaling with those machines like you will with an Xbox One. So don't worry about that. But
Yep.
So, tell you what we'll do here. How about we ask chat for some questions, and while they're kind of throwing questions at us, Jacob, you are on your way to Computex shortly. Right?
Yep.
So,
Fly out on Saturday. It's like a 14 or 12-hour flight. I can't remember. Long flight.
that's pretty brutal,
But
actually.
Computex is a lot of fun. It's I would say it's pretty much the only show. It's not 100% on the computer industry, as there's a lot of other electronics, but it seems to me at least a bit more focused on the PC industry. And so for Computex, we have a lot of new things to show in almost every single category that we offer. New motherboards. Yeah, any category that you can think that EVGA sells, we have new things to show. So this year should be pretty exciting.
I would.
See, we kind of caught you at a bad time, but we'll have you back after Computex once
Okay,
everything
yeah,
is.
there'll be a lot more to talk about then.
Yeah, it's like, don't want to twist your arm trying to get anything out of you you're not supposed to tell us, but tell us all your secrets right now. No. That's always like people get really excited whenever like Apple has their big thing with the new iPhone and all this stuff. I don't really care about that stuff. Let me know when the new GPUs are coming out.
Yeah.
Let me know when I need to justify another big purchase. So,
Well, I think we've seen some leaks that indicate there's some pretty significant announcements coming at Computex. So
yeah.
make sure you guys keep an eye out for that kind of coverage, and on whatever topic you might be interested in. But let's see. Do you have any preference for bearing types and case fans? Is one type more reliable than another? Does it even matter? Well,
probably just for if you don't care about noise, then you probably can get away with a cheaper fan. But if you're trying to go with more of a silent build, then I can guarantee you the bearing type is going to make a difference.
yeah.
And the longevity. I mean, like a
Right.
double ball bearing fan will last a lot longer than a sleeve bearing fan. If it's a mission critical machine that's like running 24/7, then yeah, it's probably a good idea to invest in a double ball bearing fan just so that if it does go down, then it'll last a very long time before it does that.
Is it true that the LED color on the fan can overclock your machine?
Yeah, I think red's the fastest, or maybe green.
I need to put some LEDs in my machine now that I have this window. I just keep looking at it. I'm just like, man, the 980 is so nice, but it just needs more.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, we always fight over colors that we have on our graphics cards and such, because everybody has different opinion on when we make a red card, people ask for blue, and we make blue, they ask for red, and
Well,
so
all you need to do is add RGB LEDs, and then you can market it as RGB.
that is right.
Just,
we do have one card like that, a Kingpin card. The 980 Kingpin allows you to switch the you can control it from software, and it's really cool.
yeah. If one of those falls off a truck, you know a guy you can ship on.
Yeah, he's
Keep that in
right
mind.
here, not Bob. I'm closer. Less shipping.
Sean asks, "What's the coolest thing under NDA that you're not supposed to talk about?"
I think that's a trick question.
Nice try. Have you ever had an NDA slip?
No,
No. Okay.
not really. I try.
I almost had one.
I try not to.
It's hard. It's very hard. I saw a product, a pretty important product that I actually probably shouldn't mention, but I saw something like 3 months before it was launched, and I almost blabbed about it because it came up in conversation. Oh, why'd you go to Seattle? And it almost came out.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's a few things in Seattle that I can think of. There's Valve, there's Microsoft, there's.
I'll tell you off. I'll tell you off stream. Has Jacob ever tried water cooling GPUs?
Yes, many times.
I'd imagine a few. In
Yeah,
fact,
so
you
we
have a
have
whole line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whole line of products that are specifically.
we have the hydrocopper line, which is they come with water blocks attached to them. It's actually EK water blocks that we work with. So yeah, those ones significantly lower GPU temperatures. But something relatively recent that we launched was we call it hybrid, and it's basically a all-in-one cooler like you find on CPUs for the graphics card. So we have 980 today, and then we're coming out with a Titan X very soon, all-in-one cooler card. So.
I'm gonna need one of those.
And that works surprisingly good. I mean, like, it keeps your GPU temperature on a 980. It keeps the GPU temperature around 55 degrees Celsius, which is, I mean, that's pretty close to what you get with the high-end water cooling system. You know, I mean, it just goes back to like the Maxwell efficiency. You know, that the all-in-one cooler is enough to keep it around 55 degrees.
Yeah. Now, if I'm not mistaken, too, while we're on the topic of cooling and possibly extreme cooling, don't you have a phase change?
Yeah. It's a phase change. I had it custom built a long time ago.
Okay.
Can't even remember, many years ago, but it still works. So
that's cool. So for those who don't know what those are, they're basically what, refrigeration units for all intents and purposes.
It's basically a refrigerator for your CPU.
Yeah.
But it's more like a very high performance refrigerator.
Right.
You know, it has a compressor and it takes 5 minutes to turn on. And it's loud, but it works really good and it's cool. You know, it's not as back when I had it, CPUs were a lot, you know, ran much hotter than they do today. And so, you know, it's kind of a different environment for that, but it's still a cool thing to have.
Yeah.
And then Gumby asked about keyboard. So keyboard is something that we have shown many times. I think we actually showed it last Computex, and then we showed it at CES. And at this Computex, we will have a much closer to production version of the keyboard to show. And we've been working on that one for a very long time. So we are excited to finally, hopefully, start shipping it later this year.
Cool. So I have a question for you. What's the best part about your job working for EVGA? Because I'm sure a lot of people, like I used to work in radio, and everyone always thinks, like, when you get into a job that just sounds really cool, because I was doing media production, and whenever the bands came in, we always would record them, so we're literally standing right next to them, just making small talk, this and that, hearing songs like sometimes the first time they've ever played it. But so whenever I'm walking down the hall, people would be like, you have the coolest job in the building, this and that. And it's not always the case. You still have your 9-to-5 daily stuff. But what's the coolest thing that you get to do in your position there, you think?
I would say certainly working with new hardware is exciting. You know, I'm an enthusiast too, so playing with new hardware and trying it out in the latest games is always fun, and seeing, you know, the new stuff. And interacting with the community, you know, on Twitter and our forums and things like that I enjoy that as well.
Cool. Yeah. And then, of course, you always get to take those, maybe those samples home when they make a slight change to it. Oh, dang it, this one can't go out. I'll have to take this home and throw it in my PC. That's a shame.
Oh, this one has a blue sticker instead of a gold sticker.
Oh,
that'd be nice, but
that's the dream anyway. Jacob did already go over what was in his personal build. I can paste that.
Well, he did the $2,800 build. I think Jonesy might be asking,
that's
like,
right.
what's your daily driver?
So I have
That's
two PCs. I have actually more than two PCs, but the two main ones that I use for gaming, I have a Hadron build that I mentioned earlier. It's a 780 Ti in there. Actually, that one is that's a Z77 motherboard, so it's a little bit older. And then I have kind of my main PC, which is dual GTX 980s. And that one actually is a Z97 with a 4770K on the phase change cooling, and I run it like around 5.2 gigahertz or so. It's actually a pretty good overclocking CPU.
Crazy.
It can do as high as 5.4, but it needs a lot of voltage, so I try not to do that.
That's insane.
That's nuts. Cool.
Right. Were there any additional questions
Yeah.
from chat before we wrap this up?
There's one from people, but it makes me uncomfortable.
He can answer that on Twitter, not on the.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Any last-minute questions for Jacob?
My dog apparently has a question.
Is that Thor?
I can't tell. Him and his brother sound the same, so it's hard to tell.
Somebody asked if they prefer closed circuit. I assume he means like all-in-one coolers or modular water cooling setups, and I assume that means like the more enthusiast grade. Certainly the all-in-one coolers, they have their benefits. They're a lot easier to set up, right? You just plug it in, and that's about it. The downside to them is they're, they're maybe not as quite high performance as a high-end kind of water cooling solution. It's also a bit cheaper, so it depends what you're looking for. For me personally, if I had the money and I had the expertise, I would probably do a modular type cooling system, as you can kind of mix and match the hardware that you want and fit it to your system.
And all the ones that you see on the internet are always like the custom loop stuff, and that would be fun to do, but it costs money to do it. So.
Yeah, I mean, not only is it really expensive, but it's also, you really have to know what you're doing with that kind of stuff. Yeah. And for people who are kind of new to PC building, I probably wouldn't recommend jumping into that just yet.
Well, even being in a position like I could do that if I wanted to, but I change parts so frequently that it would just be an unbelievable
that's the other thing.
Pain.
I mean, like, if you want to swap out a graphics card, it's like a whole day thing. You got to drain the system, and then put the
you
water
really
back
got
on.
to commit to it, and you can't move it frequently. I mean, I guess you could, but you have to be really careful about it.
Yeah.
And I don't have the patience for it. I personally have used closed loop for quite a while now, and probably will continue to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so on one hand, I kind of like the closed loop, but on the other hand, like you said, I have my phase change system, and that's probably the most difficult to set up. You have to like properly insulate the board so it doesn't create condensation, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I like different purposes for each one.
It all depends on what you want to do. So, and that's the fun part about building PCs. I'm sure all three of us have been doing it for a really long time, and it's going to change in the future, I'm sure too. But it's always something that you can just kind of dive into. And one thing I did want to cover, I forgot to mention this earlier on, is if you're watching this podcast, you've never built your own PC, you're a little intimidated, I would say watch some videos. I know Newegg they've made really good content, which is why we haven't done it on KBMOD, because they've already done a better job than we probably could of how to build your PC. There's lots of other resources. Mm-hmm. If you can put together Legos, you can probably put together a PC. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a few little tricky things, and sometimes you have to dive into the BIOS to tell it what hard drive you want to boot from, this and that. But I think most people could probably figure it out, and if you can't, you have a smartphone that can take pictures and post to Twitter, and you can take a picture and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? And one of us can look at it and go, oh, you forgot to do this, and then boom.
Yeah, I'd say that, I mean, there's definitely some intimidation there, but just make sure that you're doing your own informed research, and then participate in a community like ours, or EVGA's community, or others.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of helpful people out there who are really just interested in helping you for no other purpose than just sharing their knowledge. So if you have questions, ask them. Plenty of resources out there, plenty of videos on how to do it.
And like Jonesy and Jet said, there's a KBMOD forum that can also help. So
yep.
And once you do it, you'll never buy a pre-built machine again. Or if you have to, you will go kicking and screaming because you won't want it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would say now it's probably the easiest time to build a PC. You know, I remember when in the old days when you had BIOS jumpers and
Mm-hmm.
or like motherboard jumpers and things of that nature, and there was a lot more. It just seemed like there was a lot more compatibility issues back then. But you know, today everything, and especially now, you know, everything's such low power. You know, any power supply can almost power, you know, a high-end graphics card. So yeah, it's a different time. It's a lot easier, I think, for especially novice users to build PCs, and you know, also all the social media that's willing to help that really wasn't there 10 years ago.
Well,
Yeah,
even
that's very true.
your fully modular power supplies. When I was putting it together today, I didn't even notice this, but you literally like all the cables are labeled, so it
Hmm.
and like there's only one hole that it can go into, so it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, I mean, you couple that too with cases that actually take into account cable management now, where in the past you used to have basically the steel box
mhm,
that you would just have, you know, power supply generally was up at top
yep.
too, right? Back in the day, the PSU would be up there, and you just have like cable spaghetti hanging down over the board. So
No, it's pretty.
different times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Easier to build and look a lot nicer than they used
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
alrighty. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Jacob, for joining us on the
Thank you
podcast.
for having me.
It was an
yeah.
honor
Of course.
and a
Thanks for coming
privilege.
on, and we wish you good travels to Computex. Enjoy your time there,
Thank you.
and look forward to coverage from that, and maybe a follow up when you get back, man.
Yeah, certainly.
We might have to have you on the podcast. Wink,
Yeah,
wink, nudge, nudge.
yep,
But
I'm
we should
game.
we should have all of these written up in an article. Hopefully tomorrow morning
yep.
for you guys on kbmod.com. Make sure you guys are going there. We're doing a daily post there. We have lots of reviews and whatnot on there as well. We have an active forum. Make sure you're following us on all our social media. You can see it on the page here. I'm Nikon Punch. Bob is bpost34, and then we have EVGA underscore Jacob F. And don't forget to follow Team EVGA. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next month. And I think we have some more shows this week too, so make sure you follow the channel, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.